Let's get the show underway, shall we? And I want to introduce you to my first guest, because it's author Ashish Jaiswal, who's just written, in the last year or so, his first novel, True Dummy. He spent the majority of its creative process, I believe, sitting in the same spot of a college library here in Oxford. And writing the book was something that Ashish managed to juggle in between responsibilities as a new dad, but also pursuing a doctorate in higher education from the university here at Oxford. Was his ambition always to turn to creative writing? We can find out now, because ambition, fame and the quest for power are some of the cornerstones of True Dummy's plot. Welcome to the show, Ashish. Thanks for coming in.
Thanks.
Congratulations, first and foremost, on the publication of this book. What actually inspired you to turn your hand to creative writing?
I think life in general was an inspiration, because the book is a quest of my own sort of quest of finding out why I exist, and like in this suspended world. So life in general was my inspiration, and I have been sort of thinking of writing about my thoughts. And I guess coming to Oxford for my doctorate was sort of gave me the impulse to write this book. And I got very inspired by, I would say, the serenity of Oxford. Yes.
So is it autobiographical at all?
Not really. I mean, but it does sort of reflects my own struggle, my own sort of questions about life, and why do I exist, and what's my purpose of life, and my own sort of encounters with ambition and future. So it's autobiographical in the sense that it sort of spans the life of an individual from when he's a boy and up till the age of 33, 34. So in that sense, it's sort of my own life span. But it's not an autobiography in true sense.
Now, there are two boys, aren't there, at the heart of the story?
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about the plot outline.
Yes. So essentially, the book is it's a philosophy fiction, and it engages with questions about ambition, purpose, and meaning of life, and it does it through the story of two boys who live in an isolated village. The landscape is imaginary, and it's sort of spaceless and timeless. So the story of two boys who live in an isolated village, and they encounter this messenger of materialism who sort of make them aware of the reality of life, and where they are in the pecking order, and sort of takes away their innocence. And then they go on to the journey of conquering the world through the instruments of fame, wealth, and power. And then they eventually sort of reach a magical island where it's sort of an allegorical representation of these X Factors and American Idol shows. So they go to this island, and they sort of start their struggle, and eventually they realize the truth of life. So
now, where
yes.
does the title come from?
Yeah, so the title is so what I've done is that the truth about life, which the messenger of materialism tells them, is done through the game of pearls, which is so the old woman tells them that, you know, the world is like a bag full of pearls, which is sort of divided into true pearls and dummy pearls, and she entices them to sort of think of becoming true pearls, which she thinks is the superficial is the way forward, and the glittering pearls, the shining pearls. So essentially the allegory with the celebritization of our society. So the celebrities of the world are the true pearls of our society, and the dummy pearls are sort of the ones who are just here to fill the bag up. So that's the message which the personification of materialism gives to these boys, and then they sort of get enticed towards that journey, and they start moving towards, they get obsessed with as I'm sure that most of the youth in the current times are. So it's probing the quest of the spirit of these youth who queue in the lines of these shows to become famous, and that's the allegory which the messenger gives. And essentially in the climax, the real definition of true pearls emerges, which is not superficial and glittery and the obsession with projection, but the entirely other way around. So that's how the true pearls and dummy pearls. So it's essentially says that you choose which one you are, and what's your eventual aim.
Well, I know that you drew personally from your own Indian heritage as well in the
Yes.
way that you told this story. So I want to talk a little bit more about that in a moment, and what actually brought you to Oxford, which indeed, as you've said, also has an influence
Yes.
in the subjects that you talk about. So we'll be hearing more from Ashish Jaiswal in just a moment or two. Joining me in the studio this afternoon, author Ashish Jaiswal, who's been telling us a little bit about the plot and background of his novel True Dummy. Now, your heritage is Indian, and you came here about 10 years ago to Oxford to study, but it was that tradition of Indian storytelling that very much had a stamp in your storytelling. How so?
Yes, I see Indian writing, like, if I can label it like Indian writing in English, I sort of see it divided into two periods. One is the contemporary period where the Western world associate Indian writing in English with this sort of diasporic culture, diasporic writing essentially. And but there's altogether different period before this contemporary writing, which essentially was not written in English. That was a period where most of the writing was, the writer used to tackle themes which were more philosophical, spiritual, and very allegorical sort of form of writing, personification of wind, sun, moon, and where animals speak in a lot of fable manner and mystical. So that was the time. That's sort of the writing, which the book relates more to, and it uses a lot of allegory in its style, and there is I've used landscapes. A lot of striking imageries. For example, I've sort of this island where these boys go and strive to become famous. It's a personification of Maya. Maya is essentially a Sanskrit term. It means the illusion of the world, the materialistic world. So this island is in the form of a cobra, and it's sort of I've sort of, like, it has the hood where all the glittering ones live, and the tail where all the sort of the downtrodden and the people who are poor live. So,
were you worried about how this form of storytelling might translate or not into the English language?
Yes, that essentially is the worrying part for me, because I don't consider myself as a writer. I think that I happen to write whatever I sort of think and whatever my philosophy is, whatever my quest is. So writing essentially is just an outcome of what I think. And I did sort of struggle with how I would do justice in terms of English writing and all this style of the Indian writing and to write it in English, but it was an attempt, and I hope that it a success.
So when did you actually launch this quest of your own to write the book?
Maybe 4 to 5 years ago, I was sort of thinking that I had these questions about life, and I thought that the best way of sort of address these questions would be to start writing, and I thought that if it is non-fiction philosophy, then it is sort of takes me away from the mystical storytelling culture. So I thought that by being in the realms of fiction, I will have the liberty to say whatever I can, and I sort of started conceiving the plot about like 2 to 3 years ago, and yes, like I said, that one of the libraries of Oxford colleges, which was my college then, Lineker, its library sort of provided me the inspiration to write because it's a chapel-turned library, and I felt very peaceful there, and I dedicated lots of nights there writing this piece.
You arrived in Oxford as a student to pursue a master's.
Yes.
And we need to offer you congratulations because you've just received your doctorate as well.
Thank
so
you.
how did you juggle your research and your academic work with writing the book?
Well, yeah, I made my department very annoyed, I would say. No, in terms of support, I would say that I got great support from my wife, and she sort of allowed me to sort of spend my nights in the library writing this, and the days I would sort of go to my department and also do my research. And I would say that support of my family and the stimulus which I got in the library. And
you described it as quite a sort of spiritual place where you were writing.
Yes, I think that I mean, I always drew inspiration when I wrote in Lineker, and I thought that I mean, I was struggling. I went to for my final research. I was in the US at Yale, and I was sort of struggling writing my climax, and because I always wanted Lineker Library for writing the ending, and hence I think that it's a great place to if somebody wants to write a book.
You'd highly recommend it.
Yeah, highly recommend it, yes.
And what about bringing the story to publication? Was that one of your ambitions as you set off on this quest to become a published author, or did that come about sort of as a secondary byproduct?
I would say I was always committed to write the book, and I did not think much about its publication when I set out to write this. And I guess that is what sort of separated, I mean, sort of detached me from the outcome in the end. And I was focused on my work, and once I sort of finished it, I started exploring the publication and sort of started getting those rejections from the literary agents, the brown envelope, the dreaded brown envelope. So yes, and you get them at incredible pace. I mean, I still remember when I sent one letter in Friday, and I received the rejection on Tuesday. And that was incredible, and I must congratulate the agency to work
But
so
it's a
fast.
rite of passage, isn't it, receiving those rejections?
Yes, I would say.
Did it ever knock your confidence in the story you had to tell?
Not really. I mean, I think that it's a very difficult sort of task for even the literary agents, because I'm guessing that they receive thousands of manuscripts every sort of month, and I'm sure that it will be very difficult for them to even go through these manuscripts. So I sort of understand their position. So when I got these rejection letters, I was just thinking that maybe they haven't read the book, and I just kept on going with the flow.
And where did your break come from?
Yes, it's quite interesting that I got a call from one of the literary agents, and she sort of mentioned that I probably, being a first-time author, it's sort of difficult to break in England at this point of time with the kind of, because it was essentially with the financial downturn. And then she put me in touch with an Indian literary agent, and through her I got in touch with the Rupa publication, which is one of the largest publications in India. And yeah, then it all fell into place.
How quickly did things then start to move for you?
Very fast. I mean, like from that call till I was in the position to sign the contract or discussing the contract was like about 2 months.
So as quickly as you've been receiving the rejection letters,
Yes.
when things started to go your way, they were at quite an accelerated pace.
Yeah, they work at incredible speed, I would say, whether rejecting or accepting someone.
And the future for you now, with some great reviews coming through on your writing, is this a field that you're looking to explore further?
Yes. particularly with this book, I think that I would be exploring options of translations. I've been talking to publications in Germany, and I think that it has potential to translate into various languages. So apart from this, yes, I'm sort of toying with ideas of writing another book, maybe even a script. I don't know. I just think that writing is just a medium for me, and I would be ready whenever I'll be ready with my thoughts. I will think of what medium it requires.
But other future projects for you include heading back home to India with your daughter.
Yes, it does.
And your wife, I should add,
yes,
there as
yes,
well. But
yes.
your daughter in particular, she's instrumental and key to this decision you're making.
Yes, I always wanted to go back, and I essentially came to Oxford for my doctorate, and now the plan is that I will move back to India. And so I just get little, not worried, but my daughter has these cute questions. She keeps asking that, whereabouts are we, sort of, where would be my new school, and and she says that I want to study here in Oxford but spend my holidays in India. So she's sort of also at that in that critical age where she needs to make also a shift.
And it's important for you that she's able to explore her heritage and the traditions, as you were explaining, the Indian storytelling.
Yes, I would believe so. That I think that it'll be very important for her if she sort of spends her next phase. I mean, she has gained incredibly in Oxford, and I'm really very happy that she managed to sort of she was here with me. But now, I think that if she goes back and then probably come back for her higher education, then that'll be the right mix.
That'll make you a very happy daddy.
That will certainly.
And armed with your new doctorate, where's that head taking you next?
Yeah, so my subject is higher education, and specifically business education reform. So essentially I look at how business schools should be reformed to send socially more able leaders to the society, and so that we don't have these financial crises, and how the curriculum is shaping up. So it's again, I'm interested in the philosophy of business education and how the business school should be reformed. So probably I'll start with writing a few papers, and then a book on the reforming business schools, and then probably that's sort of the midterm thing that I always sort of thought of, establishing this place in India somewhere where I can sort of teach these kids in my sort of midlife and old age, and send them to the society as better leaders. Yeah, so that's...
Well, if the subjects of ambition, fame and quest for power are intriguing people listening now, I can strongly recommend I point them in the direction of True Dummy. Ashish, thank you very much for coming in. It's been a real pleasure meeting you, and you can pick up a copy of True Dummy as well, all good bookshops, online, published by Rupert, available in paperback. Lovely to meet you, all the very best.
Thank you so much.
BBC Radio Oxford 95.2 FM, and music from Enrique Iglesias and Ollie Murs to come.